Call this July 17th, 2025 meeting of the AMATS Policy Committee to order. It is, as I mentioned, 1:01. Let's go through the roll call. Mr. Downey.
Here.
Dr. Boland.
Happy to be here.
Ms. Day.
Present.
And Jason, Mr. Olds is online.
Yep.
We have a quorum. Could you help us out with the public involvement announcement, please, Aaron?
Of course. Welcome to the AMATS Policy Committee meeting. Public comments are welcome and encouraged with 3 minutes given to each speaker. After the committee discusses each item, members of the public will be invited to comment. Housekeeping items for virtual attendees, please keep your cameras off unless speaking. For those attending by phone, please press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Do we have approval of the agenda?
Second it.
Dr. Boland, seconded by Ms. Aldwin Day. Any changes proposed? Hearing none, are there any objections to adopting the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Item number 4, I believe we'll see the minutes next month. We
Yes.
don't have any to approve this month. So
Correct.
on to the action items already. The first is item number 5A is HSIP nominations. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, I'll do a quick overview of all these for you all. So before you is a list of HSIP nominations. So in March 26th of 2025, AMATS had a work session with Muni and DOT staff to review possible options for HSIP nominations for the 2025 period. And from that, staff has developed the following selections for HSIP nominations. We have 3 projects on the 36th Avenue from Spenard to the Lake Otis intersection, or through the Lake Otis intersection. So basically the entirety of that portion of 36th Avenue, looking at doing converting the roadway from 5 or 4 down to 3 lanes. So 1 lane in either direction plus some kind of 2-way left turn lane or center median. 36th Avenue is on the high crash network list. There are concerns for safety in that area. Next locations are along Tudor Road, Tudor and McInnes. So this is west of Lake Otis. It's in between the Seward Highway and Lake Otis. Tudor and Wright, that is west of Piper Street, and then Tudor and Dale, which is just east of Piper Street. These Tudor locations are listed on the high crash network map. Tudor and Wright is actually number 2 on the unsignalized intersection list that DOT maintains for the Highway Safety Improvement Program. So there are some needs in this area. Tudor and McInnes, we had that recent fatality there as well. And then the last nomination is Minnesota Hawk Signal near the 32nd, 33rd area. So this came from the discussion about making the changes from the Minnesota project to do a little bit more work. And the idea was don't do a Hawk Signal as part of that, look at it as part of an HSIP nomination. So it is before you. However, the recommendation for that one is to change it from being so specific to a Hawk Signal to instead look at additional crossing improvements between Benson Boulevard and Spenard. Because it may be that this location, 32nd, 33rd, isn't the best. A Hawk Signal may not be doable. It may not receive the best benefit cost ratio. So the idea is to make it a little bit more flexible to look at other options in the area. Technical Advisory Committee reviewed these, and because the nomination period closes August 1st of 2025, there might not be enough time to submit all of these and get all the information put together. So the Technical Advisory Committee recommended that staff focus on the Tudor ones, Tudor and McInnes, Tudor and Wright, and Tudor and Dale, and get that information in to the Department of Transportation by August 1st for the 2025 period. And then if there is an opportunity, get the 36th Avenue from Spenard to C Street, so the western side of the project or the road, in as well. I'll be honest with you, there's not going to be enough time to do the 36th Avenue one, so Tudor ones we should be able to get done in time for the 25 period. However, this is actually also for the 26 period. So if these projects don't get fully submitted as part of the 25 period, or whichever of them don't, they can be submitted as part of the 26 period without us having to necessarily come back unless you want us to, of course. So that's what the Technical Advisory Committee recommended, and then staff's recommending a change for the Minnesota project. It was discussed at the Technical Advisory Committee, but the Technical Advisory Committee did not include that as their recommendation to you to change the Minnesota one. So it was missed as part of the discussion or thought that it would be taken care of because it's a little while. So I can help answer any questions for you. These are before you for your approval today. Thank you.
Dr. Wall.
Thank you. So, okay, this is a list of nominations. We're asking the policy committee to essentially send on these nominations to DOT or to who, like what happens with these nominations?
Yeah, so what we have to do as staff is we typically do a walkthrough of the location to kind of get a better idea of what the concerns are, gather the data. So if there are crashes in the area, what are the crashes, what type of crashes, and then talk through as Muni, DOT, and AMAT staff to say what are some of the things we can ask for that are countermeasures to help with those crashes that would score well. And so we gather that data, put it all together in a nomination period and submit it to DOT, who then has to do their own kind of review and clean up and make sure it fits all the formatting and everything like that and add any additional information. And then they submit it in, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think to headquarters to review for approval as part of the HSIP program or not, for funding.
And the projects are scored. I mean, there's going to be several nominations, maybe in addition, definitely in addition to this. So they're all scored on benefit cost ratios and various other criteria that I can't list off the top of my head.
Nominations from other areas in the central region?
Other areas around the state.
Okay. And then, so I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around like what level of analysis has been done on these or what type of support, because we have members representing state entities on the technical advisory committee, you know, sort of recommending this list of projects for us to nominate them. But as we talked about in the transportation committee yesterday, it seems like DOT is in the process of changing a policy on lane drops or road diets. Like, is this even meaningful, I guess, to nominate this, or are we asking for something that likely either will not be granted because it is a preferred policy direction or doesn't meet the criteria, or the timing is just going to be unrealistic because we're going to be doing for each one of these lane drops now a new study to not have, quote, unintended consequences.
So 36 is a state or a city road.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So kind of the, I guess, position, that we're taking, or the path that we're taking forward is that the city can do what they want with their roads. Of course, for this funding, it's still going to have to compete with other projects. But if the city wants to drop a lane on, fireweed is going to be their the city road. So if the city wants to see a lane drop there, then we'll defer to the city on those. 36 would be the same. And I think I probably misspoke yesterday, or maybe listening to the public comments afterwards. I didn't mean to say that we're dismissing the value of dropping lanes or road diets. The policy that's being created, it's not being revised, is just to be able to take maybe more of a make more of a data-driven decision on what we do with those state roads, whether a lane drop is going to be effective or not. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I don't know if it makes any more sense than what I said yesterday. But I didn't mean to say that the state is absolutely against dropping lanes on any of their roads, but we want to make sure that we make a good decision and do that analysis first. So to get back to your question, no, I don't think it's if the city is behind dropping lanes on 36. I don't think it's a waste of time to move those nominations forward. If that's
Thanks.
Could you say more about that? What's included in that data-driven decision? I mean, what is the additional analysis over and above, say, what's already done for the MTP that DOT feels is necessary for some of these decisions to be made?
Well, yeah, so the MTP, and it will be defined in the policy and procedure when that's developed. But the MTP includes some of these streets that we're talking about lane drops on, but not all of them. So it's not going to be an accurate model unless we include all those streets that we're going to drop lanes on. Does that make any sense? That answer the question.
Yeah, partially. So what specific data would be driving the decision then?
Well, and again, that will be defined by the policy and procedure, but in my mind, it would be partially traffic volume. Where does that traffic go when we remove capacity from other streets? There's still enough capacity to not cause those unintended consequences, which would be aggressive driving, cut through neighborhoods, things of that. But is that good? Does that answer your question?
I think so. So
Yeah.
so I think what I'm hearing is that there would be some modeling that would happen of, what happens elsewhere if we make this choice here, and here,
Yeah.
what happens elsewhere?
Mhm.
Okay. And that sort of macro look is what I think I'm hearing is that macro take is a step beyond, or perhaps a step deeper than what's contemplated by the MTP analysis.
Yes, I mean, I think we're modifying the AMATS model to include some of those lane drops.
Yeah, so what staff's working on right now that you're speaking to, Chair, is we're doing a quick analysis of the system. If we did a lane drop on 40 roads, 30 roads, something like that. We've developed a list working with Muni and DOT staff to say, look at all these roads, look at lane reductions or changing of the allocation of right of way in the area. And what does it do to the system? And then we have the ability to turn some off to be like, okay, it's not going to function. So we need to turn these back onto as they are and keep them as they are and see what that does to the system. And the idea there is to get this holistic look of the system because the MTP has to be physically constrained. So it has kind of a more narrow set of projects based on what you can actually fund in that time period. The lane drop reduction that we're looking at is not fiscally constrained because we want a picture of the system if everything were done at once to give us an idea. At least that's what we're doing on our end. That's not related to the policy that Mr. Holland is talking about. DOT is developing the policy as part of their process.
But I think it's somewhat related. I mean, it's going to give us data that we can use in that analysis.
And sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So that policy that you're developing, is that specific to the HSIP projects then?
No, I would say it's a general,
Or DOT to guide DOT decision making?
statewide. So.
And then I guess what I'm curious about then with that is projects that are programmed on the MTP already that may involve a lane drop on DOT facilities. Like what is subject to the policy committee decision making versus DOT decision making? Because I know that DOT has a lot of, I think sort of all authority over the HSIP funds. We have very limited decision making regarding those projects, but other projects, if we have something programmed and the policy committee, like if DOT gets outvoted on something and you say, well, this doesn't mean our policy and procedure, so we're not going to support it. How do other projects, maybe it's a question for staff, not to put you in a weird spot, but
I don't know if that's a good answer for it. Because if it's a state road, I think the state's going to assert that we have control over that.
Mm-hmm. Is this then related to some of the letter that we're going to get maybe some legal analysis on?
I would say so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, a great
So that we can,
flag.
better define that in the operational agreement.
Right. I don't think that's something that potentially the Muni and DOT disagree about right now, but we'll get some lawyers to weigh in and see if we can come to a consensus on AMAT's authority to determine design funding on state roads within the boundary.
that is very interesting.
So I don't feel like I heard a clear answer then on how this policy development affects programmed projects. So, for example, there's a project on Northern Lights that includes lane reallocation that's at 95% design, and it's been at 95% design since 2023, I believe.
Don't think that's accurate.
Which project is that?
It's, Mr. Young and Owen, will you help me with this? It's the, I don't recall the section of Northern Lights that is,
There are 3 projects on Northern Lights right now in that location that's being looked at. One is the AMATS non-motorized pavement replacement project. That's the one that's been at 95% design since 2023.
That's-
Then there's the regular pavement, so that's the roadway pavement project. And then there's the HSIP nomination that was submitted and approved for lane reduction within that termini. Actually, I think it extends beyond. I think the HSIP lane reduction is Lake Otis to Lois, so it's a little further beyond that. I will note, we're gonna probably have an item, an informational item about that project at the next TAC and PC to give an update on where we're at with, because there's some discussion that needs to be had regarding that. So,
yeah, so using that project as an example, you know, this is something that's programmed, that's ostensibly already been vetted. Will that project be subject to this new policy? Or will there be a sort of grandfather clause for projects that are already programmed and underway and design and such?
Yeah, the lane reduction project on the, on Northern Lights is gonna be paused until that analysis can be done.
Is that the same then for Ingrid Gamble?
Likewise for Ingrid Gamble and A Street.
So everything is going to be paused.
Yes.
And when can we expect that policy to come forward?
Not really in my shop, so I can't give you a date, but I would say shortly. I don't know, within a month or 2, maybe.
Okay.
There's an RFP, request for proposals that our traffic group has now that's, and part of the task of that is a broader, but one of the tasks will be performing some of those evaluations.
So there's an RFP that's out. The policy has yet to be drafted. Someone will be hired to create the policy,
No, to do the analysis on the lane drops.
to implement the policy. Interesting. Okay.
Okay, I have another question. So even zooming out from lane drops for a second. So it was what I'm understanding that if the MPO decides to edit a project description on the tip for the MTP, that if that is on a state facility, that is essentially meaningless because the state is asserting that they can do whatever they want on their own facilities.
I would say that's generally correct, particularly on the national highway system.
And I'll say, I think this is something we disagree about.
Yeah, I
So-
strongly disagree with that. I think that is,
That is an
Yeah.
interesting take.
goes against local control, goes against our operating agreement.
I don't know that it does. It's not defined in our
Okay.
operating agreement.
I guess
I think Federal Highway Authority should certainly be part of this conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
For sure.
I wonder, during the time that Kent was dutifully serving as the mayor's representative, I think we had a conversation about this topic and there was a decision to hire outside counsel. Is that the policy committee make that decision? Is that correct?
no, not yet. We're trying to get a work session together so the policy committee could sit down and discuss it. Because the last time this came up, there was some concerns of what exactly would we be asking for this third-party counsel to look at? Does the Muni legal team need to look at it? Does the DOT legal team need to look at it? You know, what does the policy committee want to do? It was just a recommendation from the technical advisory committee and staff to get a third-party analysis of the letter provided from the commissioner and the legality surrounding it.
Okay. What's the timeline on that work session?
I've been trying to schedule a work session, but I'm having a hard time getting everybody to agree on a particular time. So I have to send out a new doodle poll with some times in August. And I'll do a 3-week period to try and see if I can get everybody schedules aligned.
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure everybody from the policy committee can attend because it's a pretty essential work session. So
Yeah.
it's been challenging.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, I might add on that in part at member Constance urging yesterday, I think we'll be having municipal attorney's office take a look at it in addition, in a more thorough way. So.
And it may be helpful if we reshare that letter. I'm sure Ms. Baldwin Day hasn't seen it. Share that letter and it gives, I'm not an attorney, you know, and so I don't want to speak inside my area of expertise. But
Yes,
Yeah, we
staff's,
may be off topic a little bit for the, it was a good discussion.
Yeah, we may, but I
But we
think
may
it's
be off
important.
topic.
I think this is
real quick
important.
for that, staff's plan is we'll share an email with you all with all of the information we've got. So the operating agreement, the letter, and then the staff's memo that was part of it. So you can see all of it and get informed of where we're at with that. So we'll provide that. My plan was to provide it once we get a work session scheduled, so then you had something to look at, but I can provide it as soon as we're done with this meeting, so you can have more time.
But back to topic. We
Yeah.
good? Okay, all right, good.
Sure.
Where, now I gotta remember where we were.
We were asking questions about that.
Any other questions from the committee?
I had a quick question. Aaron, you said we would be able to prepare the HSIP nominations for the 3 tutor projects.
Mhm.
Is that we AMAT staff, or is that we AMAT staff and DOT staff?
It's actually AMAT staff and municipal staff. So right now it's Zach Hartman and myself, like we did with the last one for Mountain View Drive. Basically Zach brings that traffic experience. We also reach out to DOT when we need help. Dalton Perry and Anna Boson help us with some of that information as well if we need some data. So we work together because I bring the planning side of things and Zach brings the technical expertise. So, and we need multiple people to help get it done in a short time.
Okay, so that would be to sort of, I think, build on Member Owen's questions earlier. You and the municipality and AMATs would be putting the HSIP proposal together if the policy committee approves it, and then that would go to DOT, and DOT would have to approve it by August 1st, or it would need to be submitted to them by August 1st.
Just submitted by August 1st. I don't know when it's sometime after then when they do the review and all that kind of stuff. So
Um,
sure.
I'd be really surprised if it's gonna be obligated in 25, though. I'd say that they would all be 26.
I do have one more on-topic question.
Sure.
So, okay, with the policy on lane drops, because it's pertinent to some of these projects, will that be made public? Will a draft of that go out for comment or be made public before it's finalized?
They don't typically, they're typically made public. It's an internal document. But let me think about that. We might be able to share it with the committees.
Sorry.
Mr. Howard.
Oh.
I think there are folks, I think your chief engineer, Lauren Little, is online if you've got any questions or clarifications on the lane drop policy that might be helpful.
I'd rather, thanks for
Okay.
offering, Lauren. I'd rather try to stay on topic if we could, but thanks, Jason. Yeah.
I guess the sort of where I was driving is I heard you say that if we recommended the 3 tutor and McInnes projects, there's a chance they could be included in fiscal year 25, but I'm also hearing potentially low probability on the DOT side. So sort of curious about if we recommended fewer projects, would that increase the chance?
Yeah, no, I
or-
wouldn't, I mean, it could be somewhat seamless, right? It's, I wouldn't worry about what year it's gonna be obligated in.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, because I think it could be nominated for 25 in that period, but it could be the funds get obligated at a later date, based on the scheduling that's available. So,
Yeah, so we're probably talking about 2 different schedules.
yeah.
Right. I guess what I was wondering is we have 3 projects here. If we chose one, would that increase the probability that that one happens in 25?
It depends on what else is nominated. So,
Okay.
but you have a priority list here anyway, to some extent, right? You said you're gonna submit these 3 tutor projects as your priority, and so
Yeah.
it'll just be.
And the idea is to lump them all together as much as possible because it kind of makes sense to look at the corridor as a whole. So in my mind, it would make sense to have all 3 of them submitted because then you could maybe do them all together, even though if they go out at different time periods, it would make more sense to have all 3 together. That's a recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the committee? I think I have one, and I hesitate to even bring it up, but I think my memory is that we built a project through AMATS maybe about 10 years ago to build that to 5 lane when its current configuration. It was probably 4 before that, but I can't remember back that far.
It was correct. I did get an email from Anna Boson explaining that it did use HSIP funding on the 36th Avenue to expand it to 5 lane, what it currently is right now.
I think it's been 10 years, which is typically the life of a HSIP project. Okay.
Should we take from the public or?
Yeah, yeah. Are there any comments from the public?
Alexa from Bike English. Is her hand up?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Alexa. Just let us know who you are, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Alexa Dobson with Bike Anchorage. So we do want to express our strong support for all of these road diet projects that are being brought forth with the HSIP nomination project, as well as the Minnesota Hawk Signal. And we really want to urge that as many of these projects as possible are moved forward as quickly as possible. We cannot emphasize enough that there is a crisis right now of safety on our roadways, and that our roads, we know from the data that we have extensively assessed, are massively overbuilt and can easily stand to drop lanes. In the Transportation Committee yesterday, we heard a lot about these studies that need to be done to honestly, I'm not super clear on what they are ostensibly intended to do, but the effect is going to be to slow walk or to obstruct road diet projects that are desperately needed in the community in order to save lives. It is completely inexcusable to continue to delay and obstruct these projects that need to happen. These are not experimental treatments. These are Federal Highway Administration endorsed proven safety countermeasures with decades of data supporting their implementation nationwide. We really think that the changes that need to happen here need to come from top leadership. We need to see a culture change, moving away from treating driver convenience on the order of saving a few seconds per drive over actual safety interventions to make roads safer and save lives for all road users. Treating aggressive driving in particular as some sort of force of nature against which we are powerless and helpless is also, I really emphasize here, inexcusable. We do not have to treat driver behavior as if it is some force of nature like the weather. This is something that we do have power and control over in the way that our roads are designed and managed. The idea that, treating roadway in such a way that it's going to make drivers move a little bit slower would somehow be worse because then people will become more aggressive is ridiculous. It is not supported by the data. And again, we have decades and decades of data demonstrating that these road diet projects do work. We also want to demand transparency on this road diet policy that is being developed internally at DOT. We want to know that there is public process. We want to have trust in the process, and we want to know that the policy that is developed is going to be based on data and facts and the layout of the roads that we understand them right now and where people are currently dying. And again, not further entrenching that culture of prioritizing driver convenience. So thank you so much. We really hope that we can move forward with these HSIP projects. They are so, so badly needed.
Thank you, Alexa. Is there anybody else that has a comment? Nobody online? Okay. What's the will of the committee?
Let's see, move to recommend.
I'm gonna move to recommend these HSIP nominations that are listed, with the exception, I want to incorporate the staff recommendation that the Minnesota nomination change from a Hawk signal to additional crossing options.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd like to ask a question before I second, just procedurally. Mr. Young and Ellen, is it more helpful for us to narrow our recommendation to what the TAC recommended that the staff focus on, or would it be more advisable for us to recommend the entire slate, the 7 bullets in their entirety?
Both. Because it'd be helpful to know, do you guys want all of these nominations to go forward regardless? And then if you have specific ones you want to see for the 25 period, it would be nice for us to know, do you agree with the TAC's recommendation that it should be the Tudor ones, or do you have other ones that you want to see? So anything that doesn't go forward in 25, if you approve them all, we would submit them for 26.
Okay, let me change my motion then. So move to recommend these HSIP nominations with the Tudor projects marked as high priority, and incorporating staff recommendation on the Minnesota nomination.
Seconded.
By Dr. Fulton, seconded by Mrs. Baldwin Day. I think I'll just go to, are there any objections to approving the motion?
I guess I had a follow-up question. Which is, I think it looks like staff did not recommend the sections of 36th Avenue from C Street to Latouche and Latouche to Lake Otis. So I'd be curious to understand maybe the reasoning behind not including those recommendations here.
What do you mean? We have them on there as the list. So it goes from Spenard to C is one section, then C to Latouche is the middle section, and then Latouche to Lake Otis is the eastern section. Those would be submitted as part of the 26 period.
Well, perhaps I'm misreading it, but at the bottom of the memo, it says the TAC recommends the tutor nominations for 25, and if time allows, 36 from Spenard to C. But I don't see the other sections of 36 being recommended.
For the 25 period. The rest of them would be for the 26 period. So it's basically trying to focus the tutor ones to get them in by August 1st. Anything not included in that list to get in by August 1st, we would submit them for the next go around in 26. And that includes all the rest of them. So the Minnesota and the 36th Avenue ones.
And the TAC agreed with that?
Yes.
Okay.
And they just put in there that if you had time on the 25 nominations, get that western side of 36 thing.
I think we're still good to ask if anybody objects.
I do not.
All right. Hearing none, the motion is approved. Could you just read that motion back to us?
Yeah, move to recommend these HSIP nominations with the tutor projects as high priority and include the staff recommendation for the Minnesota change.
Thank you. We're on to action item 5B, which is the CAC is Community Advisory Committee.
Yes.
District 3 appointment. Aaron, do you have a presentation?
Will not be me, actually. It'll be Christine.
Oh.
So AMETS has 3 advisory committees to the Technical Advisory Committee and eventually to you. The Community Advisory Committee has 6 seats that are by district. District 3 is open, and we received applications for that position. Staff has recommended Ellie Hartman, and my TAC also recommended Ellie Hartman. She has been tracking AMAX activities for quite a while. She's active in her community, and she serves on her community council board as secretary of the Sand Lake Community Council. She wanted to be here today. She is not. I have a statement that she emailed me that I could do for you.
Please.
Please accept my sincere apologies for my absence during today's AMAX Policy Committee meeting. I am honored to be nominated and eager to jump into the work of the Community Advisory Committee representing District 3, West Anchorage. When I first moved to Anchorage in 2017, I did not have a car. In my first few months falling in love with this city were experienced the sidewalks and trails. I've maintained this perspective and commitment to community over the years, growing my roots in Sand Lake, volunteering for the community organizations, and commuting by bike and public transit several times per week. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Christine. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Did the Technical Advisory Committee, or did you all consider potential conflicts of interest? And did Allie have any response to questions about that with her current role or relationships?
I wasn't at the TAC meeting.
Yes, I'll speak. So we did discuss quick if there was a concern with conflicts of interest. We don't have anything in our bylaws that talk about that as part of it, but what we do as staff is we encourage any individual who participates to recognize their conflicts of interest and let us know if they have them. There are a lot of other committee members we have on all of our committees that would have some kind of conflict of interest. So we as staff kind of monitor how they participate in it. And really they need to come understanding that they're there to represent their district, or if they're a member of the public, not their work. However, Allie does bring some experience with the assembly that could be beneficial for us in terms of how they communicate and things like that. So I think that she has the opportunity to bring things from work without the advocacy side of things that she does for her office. I'll be honest with you, we'll watch over with it. And if it's a problem, we'll bring it up to you all.
Great.
Any comments, questions? I think I know Allie has Does she MC some of the assembly nerd nights? I think, yeah,
He does.
he does a good job of that, yeah.
I have a general question. Are there any other district seats that are currently open apart from District 3?
On the community council, technically not currently, but District 5 has told me that he'll be stepping down, so that will be our next one.
Okay, thank you. Move to approve?
We're just gonna open up to
Public comment.
comments.
Sorry for skipping ahead.
Comments from the public? I'm not seeing any. All right, now you're on.
Move to approve.
Second. No.
By Ms. Baldwin Day, I'll give second to Mr. Downey. He hasn't had, he hasn't been here for a while. Are there any objections to approving the motion?
No, but I would like to say something.
Sure.
Well, enthusiastically support Ally. I also did see that one of the other folks who was considered for this role was Evan Leaf. And I know Evan, I just want to give Evan a shout out and say thank you also for applying and for your interest. I think it's great when we get more than one person who wants to be involved with these AMATS committees. And also, I think it's interesting that they both have been involved in the Sand Lake Community Council. So go Sand Lake.
Shout out Sand Lake.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thanks for that. Any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We're on to action item number 5C, which is the AMATS and DOT and PF funding swap agreement. Sure, we have a presentation on that.
Yes, I'll do my best to keep it simple. Okay, everybody, so we received a request from the Department of Transportation about using some of AMATS's allocation for a DOT and PF project. That project is the De-Armond Road pavement preservation project from 140th to Hillside Drive. So basically what's being asked here is just swapping some funds. DOT would like to use some of the AMATS allocation. The AMATS allocation is pretty restrictive. It can only be used within our MPO boundary for the MPO. And right now there's about 50 million unobligated funds that the MPO has kind of sitting there, give or take a few. A lot of that has been just waiting for the STIP to be approved, which was just approved on the 14th. And now that that's done, the TIP is also approved, so we can move forward with a lot of projects. However, we still have some money sitting there. And that directly impacts the state's ability to ask for the August redistribution funds. Think of it like this: for every dollar that the AMATS allocation obligates in a year, the state can ask for that dollar in August redistribution. So August redistribution, just so you're reminded of it, it's it happens every August, where basically the feds redistribute authority to obligate federal funding to states. So if one state doesn't use all of their authority, it can be redistributed to the other states that are like, we have more need because, Alaska is very young and is still working on its transportation system. It has a lot of needs all the time. This funding swap that's here, it's common. It's happened before in the past, many, many years. This is the first time that we have an actual agreement between the two parties, which I think is amazing to have this kind of transparent process so everybody's involved, so everybody knows what's going on. There are a couple things I just want to let you know. So the idea here is AMATS would give 5.3 million in our specific funding, the 200 or greater than 200,000 STBG, Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, and DOT would provide us the same amount in STBG. We say STBG on the agreement. It really needs to be changed to STB Flex. I did get the confirmation from DOT that is the specific terminology, so that'll be the recommendation we have to change that in the agreement itself. And to have that available no later than October 1st. The reason for that is that's the start of the new fiscal year. And we are currently fully programmed in the TIP right now. So if we give up 5.3 million for DOT to use, that means we have 5.3 million less to use towards projects that are already programmed in the TIP. So we need the money right away from DOT to make sure that we just do that quick swap available. Technical Advisory Committee did review this. I'm going to say this, but I'm also going to put caveats on it. If DOT does not uphold their end of the bargain on this and provide that money to us, there is no cure for that. That has never happened before in the past. I'm not saying that is going to happen. It's just an exclamation point I put next to everything, so you're fully aware of it, that there are some risks associated with what we are doing here. Even with that said, Technical Advisory Committee and staff are recommending approval of this agreement and also a minor change to the memo that was provided to us from DOT. Can you switch over to the memo and scroll down to the bottom at number 6, please, Christine? Just keep going up, sorry. Yeah, it's on there. You were just on it.
Got it?
You were just on it, yep. That one, and then you can scroll down to number 6. And this is talking about the authority, approval, and oversight. There was some confusion on staff's part, how this is written. This approval and oversight is for the internal DOT process, not necessarily for the MPO process or the process as a whole. So the recommendation from the Technical Advisory Committee is to add a little parentheses in there that basically just says this is for DOT's internal process. So we know that when it says final approval authority is the commissioner, that's for the DOT's process. The MPO has an approval path in this process. DOT can't just unilaterally come in and say, we're going to take some of your money and use it for our project and we'll give you this. It has to be a mutual agreement between the two parties. So this is before you for action today. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Thanks, Aaron.
No. Oh, yeah, no. I'll talk later.
All right, not hearing any public comment. Not hearing any. What's the will of the committee?
I would move to approve with the recommended change.
There's a second.
Seconded.
Moved by Mr. Donahue, seconded by Ms. Baldwin Day.
To clarify, by recommended changes, Mr. Downey, did you mean the change in language from STVG to STVG Flex?
Thank you. I guess I could amend my motion to say the recommended change to include the flex language as well as the language in section 6 clarifying that the approval is for internal DOT processes.
I retain my second. My second stands.
There any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Is that our last action item?
That was it.
On to informational items, high crash network map.
Yes, this would actually be Emily Weiser with AMATS. We'll give you a quick presentation on this item. Thank you.
Hey, yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Weiser. I am recently a planner at AMATS. So over the past several years, we've had several efforts to map the high crash and high injury location in Anchorage and in the AMATS area. Having several efforts for that can be a little confusing because you're not quite sure which map to look at, or if there's something on one map but not another map, what does that mean? So we pulled all those together and essentially pasted them on top of each other to create one unified high crash map. And I think I'm going to actually share my screen and show you the updated version that I believe many members have, but was not linked on the agenda. So let me just show so that anybody online can see it. So this first page on this new version just zooms out so that you can see the whole AMATS area. Hopefully you can see that more or less on the screen. It extends through the whole extent of this view that we're looking at here from north to south. So the other analyses that we considered did include the entire AMATS area and all roads in the AMATS area. We didn't look south to Girdwood since that's outside the AMATS area. And then second page on this document zooms in on the Anchorage Bowl, so you can see that a little bit better. And then the third page is showing the areas north of the Anchorage Bowl. So you can see where those areas are well. So the previous analyses that we included in this were the AMAT safety plan that was completed last year. That provided quite a bit of data. The Vision Zero action plan that was developed last year. The Highway Safety Improvement Program from DOT, they have a list of projects or corridors, safety corridors. And we just looked at their top 10 because there were too many to include otherwise. And then the state has their strategic highway safety plan that includes Anchorage, and they specifically looked at where vulnerable road users, so non-motorized users, where those crashes have occurred. So all of those provided information on corridors, and then the safety plan also identified hotspots, which are the red spots on the map. So hotspots are where there were at least 70 crashes between 2017 and 2021. That includes all crashes, all users, even if it was just a fender bender with no injuries, which is why the numbers are so high in so many places. That is something that we would like to reconsider in the future in terms of should we be treating property damage only crashes the same as injury crashes? Maybe not, you know, it's kind of apples and oranges. But we think a more robust analysis like that would be very well placed in the AMAT safety plan update, which we intend to do kind of starting the ball rolling with the next tip cycle, 2027. So that could be a very in-depth and quantitative look to see where are hotspots for different types of users or different types of crashes. But for now, I think this unified map can be really used as kind of a one-stop shop to go to when projects are being selected or designed, or funding decisions that the policy committee is making, to see where can we best focus our efforts when safety is the consideration. Checking that I covered all my caveats. I think I did. So we have this PDF version that is before you on the screen as a draft. We also have all of this in GIS so that it can be shared with decision makers or staff to really zoom in on each of these locations and get a finer view of it. And I think the thought is today just to kind of give you a first look at this. Feedback is very welcome. And then we're going to suggest if you would be interested, you could adopt this as the AMAT's high crash network for the time being until the safety plan it comes back up again and can update it with any more detailed information that you might like. I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Dr. Vaughn.
Thank you. So Emily, I think I heard you say that we can use this as a guide on where to focus our efforts when safety is a concern. Do we have, to go along with this, like a descending table of crashes, like which ones of these are the hottest of the hot? Because I'm just, I'm wondering about like Gamble and Ingra or Tudor versus portion of the Safer Seward Highway that's within the MPO boundary. How are we truly focusing our efforts on the highest crash streets? That's kind of what I'd like that information.
Yeah, good point. There's a lot here, and so it would be helpful to focus further. Creating a table like that is on my list for August, hopefully. Looking at not only which is the hottest of the hot, but how is it hot? So is it vulnerable road users, is it injury crashes, is it fatalities, is it property damage only? And just providing that as a spreadsheet that you could then sort and filter to your heart's content, I think could be useful with that answer.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Please.
I think I heard you say hotspots are defined as at least 70 crashes between 2017 and
2021.
2021.
That was the data set available to the safety plan.
Gotcha. Do you have any idea when the data set might extend through, say, 2023 or 24?
I believe through FHWA, the FARS data go from, I think, 2001 to 2023, and I believe those should be available. I don't know if there are caveats on quality of those data, but I am hopeful that the next analysis for the safety plan could use a much larger time range. If we're interested in historic as well as more recent, that could be a topic of discussion also.
That's helpful. Thank you. And I think then my follow-up, I would love that the table that Dr. Volland referred to. Think if there's a GIS map already available, if that map could potentially have some of those layers embedded, to be able to sort of pinpoint, high injury, high fatality versus property damage versus other things. If there's a way for the GIS magicians to do their thing on that, I think that could also be really helpful, just for visualization purposes as opposed to tabular. That is a wish list item. Please do not hear that as a directive. But I think that could be very helpful as a decision-making tool.
Good point. I think that should be very feasible, but I will take that as a wish list in case we run into any issues.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Any other main questions? Please.
Chime in while we're, yeah, great work, Emily. Thank you. It's really, really useful to have. I think I wouldn't be actually quite so quick to dismiss the property damage, because I wonder if that's an indicator of like the near misses, right? Like you hit your brakes and you only dented the bumper instead of killing a person. Feels like that's a good outcome, but it's also an indicator that potentially there's conflict on that road. So I think I wouldn't, yeah, I don't know. I would potentially not just categorize it as property damage. And I think when I'm thinking about near misses also, I wonder if there's value in if APD has data they could contribute in terms of sort of reckless, aggressive speeding, like if there's drive roads that are promoting greater, lesser red light running, like if there are places where our roads seem to be encouraging illegal and dangerous behavior, might be an interesting variable to think about, where risk is being created, not just results. And I think I'd also be curious, I think a lot of these look like highway interchanges, especially moving up into Eagle River. I'd be curious, sort of relatively speaking, are our intersections more dangerous than the average? Are our highway interchanges more dangerous than the average highway interchange? Or is that what you sort of expect for a highway interchange as they're designed in America?
So comparing nationally. Okay.
Question. That's a lot of crashes for those highways. So
Yeah, not to diminish, I mean, the absolute number matters, but yeah.
Sure.
If I may respond to that, I think some of those may be like next safety plan analysis.
Yes.
Absolutely, that feedback is welcome too, because we are starting to think about sending out that RFP. So yeah, definitely taking those on board. In terms of the property damage only crashes, what some of the other programs have done is weight the fatalities the highest, followed closely by serious injuries, and then property damage only is still considered, but it's just weighted much less. And so it wouldn't turn the hotspot bright red if it was only property damage, unless there's really a lot of them. So yeah, good thoughts about what that could imply for how other users are experiencing the road and possible risks there.
Just because I'm curious, what is the furthest milepost that pertains to AMATs on the Seward Highway?
On the Seward Highway,
Mm-hmm.
114, 113.8, something like that. I think 113.8 is the specific one.
way station-ish.
It's
Just
around the
south.
Potter Marsh Way Station, I think a little south of it or so. And that's the approved boundary, not the one that's still tentative right now.
Even on that here.
Any other questions for Emily?
Just thanks for your work.
Mm-hmm.
Really appreciate it. What would the process be for adopting this, as you suggested, as the de facto high crash network for AMATs?
Aaron can take that question.
Basically, the plan was if there was interest, we would bring it back next month for the TAC and policy committee to vote on it.
Does that require a motion or recommendation? How does that? What do we?
It's just an informational item right now, so next month it'll be an action item where
Fantastic.
you can then vote on it and stuff. The idea was to bring it forward to see if the committee members had comments, concerns, edits, that kind of stuff that we could address before bringing it back in a more formal vote on capacity. You could still obviously ask questions, make edits then, which is trying to get you guys a little more involved earlier in the process. So at this point, the hope is we'll see it in August.
Any comments from the public?
When Annabelle was in, we have some Eagle River interchange projects in design. I can pass that note along for the design team to comment on in their safety evaluation.
Thank you. Thanks, Anna.
I believe our alternate AMATS member will appreciate that.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item 6B, which is the federal fiscal year 25 second quarter obligation report. Presentation for that.
That'll be for me. So, just so you know, as part of our process, we are required to do our quarterly obligation reports and just say, how are we doing with getting our funds obligated in our TIP program? So this one before you today is for the second quarter. So this is through March 31st of 2025. So just remember, it's a snapshot in time. Some time has passed since March 31st of 2025, so things have changed. Also want you to note that when this was done, the TIP amendment number 2 was the latest version of the TIP approved. TIP amendment 3 had not been approved at that time. Now that TIP amendment 3 is approved, we can go ahead and update to the quarterly reports moving forward to reflect that. And so one thing I just want to kind of zoom in. Okay, so you have the name of the project, the phasing, then the column B is what TIP amendment we're on or TIP cycle we're on. Column C is what's been obligated through March 31st. Column D is what's anticipated to be obligated. And then you have E, which is total obligation, deobligation, and then you have comments after that for G. One of the things I want to note is at the time of writing or developing this obligation report, the vast majority of our funds had not been obligated. We have only obligated at this time 1.8 million of our $54 million. So there was about 46 million and some change remaining to be obligated. Now that sounds like a lot, but I do want to let you know we have some positive news. The Downtown Trail Connection project is moving forward to be obligated or has been. Somebody from DOT can clarify. Last I knew it was waiting to be, but it was close any day now. And that's about 16 million. So that shaves a pretty good amount off of there. Then we have about 5 to 10 million that's going to be transferred over from FHWA to FTA for the transit funds. So now that TIP Amendment 3 is done, we can get the remaining of that. So it's a pretty good chunk from there. And then there are some other projects that are moving forward as well. So, this shows that we still have about 6 million that won't be obligated by the end of the fiscal year. I do want to let you know that that is part of the reason why we do amendments to the TIP is because we know that there are going to be some projects that need to change. So I do want you to not freak out yet about this. We have to update our obligation report now that we're going to be done with quarter 3 to get you a little more information. It has been a struggle to get some of these projects obligated, I will be honest. A lot of that is just waiting for the STIP to be approved. And so now that it is approved, staff at DOT and the Muni are scrambling to get as much obligated before the end of the federal fiscal year. And the federal fiscal year ends at the end of September. I do want to let you know that if there is any funds that are not obligated at the end of this year, they'll be carried forward for obligation in future years. One thing that we did this year in 24 or 25, staff spent time working on getting the FY24 funding obligated as the STIP was a little delayed then too in 24 into 25. So staff was kind of doing double duty at DOT to get both years obligated. So I just want to highlight that hopefully this is not a growing trend that the STIP is delayed at the end of every fiscal year to cause some delays in getting our funds obligated. So it is before you here, and there are a couple things I want to point out. We did have some delays, Potter Drive rehabilitation, and then there's a little bit on Mountaineer Drive that are not expected to go in 25, but instead will go into 26. So you'll see some changes there coming forward in a future amendment. I can go ahead and help answer more questions. Unfortunately, I don't have all the answers to this because I have to sit down with James, who's trying not to look at me right now, to update this with the TIP amendment number 3 and where we're at with our obligations. So I'm happy to help answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Yeah, a couple things, especially this time of year, that I would say that this list, the project list probably looks the same, but the amount of obligation is changing daily this time of year. And I don't know, it's in every year we run into this, that, we have deadlines in August to be able to get projects obligated, and could have made it a little bit more challenging with a late STIP amendment approval, but we run into it every year. And so we always say that we're going to work to kind of spread it out earlier in the year, but it never seems to happen. So anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, can just to refresh me. So what are the repercussions, if any, of ending the year with unobligated funding?
I guess it depends. There are some scenarios. If some of the funds that you are wanting to obligate are going to lapse, well, then those funds would lapse at the end of the fiscal year. We actually have some funds that are anticipated to lapse if they don't get obligated, but those are part of the downtown trail connection. Because that's gone forward, it is going forward, we don't have any problems there. We anticipate it'll be totally fine in that regard. But that is one of the things that staff kind of does on a regular basis, working at the Muni and AMATS and DOT, is what's kind of going to lapse the soonest, get it out the door as quick as we can, and then make sure nothing lapses for that. If there are no funds that are going to lapse, then what has to happen in general is we just have to do a TIP amendment to reprogram those funds for projects. It could mean that it could delay the project, depending on what happened specifically. Some project schedules slip normally at the end of the fiscal year. That's not unheard of. And then we have to adjust the TIP as needed. So I guess it really depends.
So I want to be sure I'm understanding process here. So when there is a delay to the STIP that shifts how funds can be obligated, that results in potentially more work via TIP amendment in order to reobligate those funds for a future year.
Correct.
Which also is dependent on STIP amendment approval.
Correct.
Interesting.
Can you change the date with the admin mod?
No.
Yeah.
It was approved by the policy committee to set date, and that's what it is. We'd have to bring it back to the policy committee. Depending on the level of changes, you'd have to put it back out for the public. You have your air quality conformity determination, demonstration, that you have to do as well. So it depends on any of the
Change the
changes.
fiscal? Yeah. I'll look at it.
Depends on which projects are impacted by it and everything. So there's a lot that goes into TIP amendments. It's very complicated.
But we're really sort of beholden to STIP amendment approval in order for these things to be obligated.
Yes.
So let's see. So our STIP amendment was just approved. It's July. What expectation do we have that STIP amendments will be approved in a timely fashion in the future to sort of avoid this kind of like merry-go-round?
What's timely?
Oh, it feels like July is a little late.
I mean, typically the STIP gets amended half a dozen times a year. It can be. It's amended several times throughout the year. Inevitably, they're going to end up. An amendment's going to end up this time of year.
Okay.
The real issues are challenge for delivering projects in Anchorage. We keep pushing this funding into the next year with a handshake deal, but yeah, we just have to do a better job of maintaining project schedules to be able to obligate.
Sounds like we also have some work to do at the state level. And it feels kind of, it feels a little disingenuous to say that, that the roadblock is predominantly local.
I mean, the DOT delivers most of these projects too. I mean, we develop most of those projects on the tip.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
I guess
Go to Dr. Bowles.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, no, I'll just say, we discussed lane drop projects and how DOT is now coming up with a policy, and that's potentially going to unilaterally delay projects that are already programmed, and one of which is already at 95% design, potentially.
No.
It's not delaying that project? It's not delaying the Northern Lights project? Am I understanding that incorrectly?
Not the lane drop project. I mean, the lane drop project, not the motorized pavement.
It's delaying the AMATS one.
95%.
The idea was to wait for the AMATS project until the HSIP lane drop was decided upon and integrated into that project. To do it all at the same time for cost savings, and because the lane reduction would also limit the right-of-way impacts on the northern side. So it was discussed to do all of them together. So at this point, the Northern Lights project, it's I don't want to say in limbo, but it's waiting for the HSIP project to decide what to happen with it.
So I just think this talking point of it's hard to get projects done in Anchorage. I think we need to acknowledge that cuts both ways.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder, perhaps we'll get to this in the next item, but if we could get a preview of any projects that are likely to see delays and any that are likely to get back on track. Is that possible to do now, or?
Can you give an example of what you mean?
Well, it sounds like we heard about the downtown trail connection at the top of the list on the second page. That's going to be prioritized for moving that one forward. I'd be curious. It sounds like Northern Lights probably delayed. I'd be curious about Fish Creek, Fireweed, Spinard. As like whether those are going to be on track or if those are likely to see more delay. I think you said Rabbit Creek will be delayed and Mountain Arrow will be delayed.
I think Mountain Air is just, they requested some funding and they're just waiting for that funding to get put into place. There will be a small delay for that one. I think Fireweed and Spinard, there's internal discussions at the Muni going on with those projects about what the design needs to be for it. So I think that's what's delaying at least Spinard. So yeah, we can. So the next item on the agenda is actually the project status update, of which we can flag particular projects if you guys want more detailed updates on them. That's why we said that the Northern Lights project will come before the committees next month to discuss what's going on. I've sent a request to DOT to get somebody there to explain what's going on. So they can provide you more information on that. So if there are other projects you would like an update on, Fireweed's not ready to come before the committees at this point because some additional discussions need to happen on that one. But if there are other ones, just flag them and we will get the info for you guys. There, on the next item, there's a number that is saying the project is on hold pending the TIP amendment. I think most of the projects on that list are listed at that. So now that the TIP amendment is approved, those project funding requests can go forward. So the projects are no longer on hold.
Any other questions, comments? Any comments from the public? Mr. Sarzik.
Hi, James Sarzik, DOT Planning. I produced this obligation report that you're reviewing. I just kind of wanted to make a note. This was as of March 31st of this year, the obligation that we've done at that point. The last quarter, that third quarter that just completed was as of June 30th. At that point, we were still operating under Amendment 2. So when you see the next quarterly report, that column C, the right column C, the green column, showing the programming is not going to change. So I just wanted to just give you that heads up. It's not going to show Amendment 3 until the end of the final quarter of this year. But I will tell you, we, looking at what has occurred over the last month or so in obligations, I feel pretty good that we're going to get just as much as humanly possible obligated from 25 programming. And I think while we might not make full obligation by the end of this year, we're going to have some significant progress towards that.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we won't see TIP amendment number 3 until the end of quarter 3, quarter 4, when do you expect that the obligation will change substantively in between essentially now and the end of December?
Now at the end of September. This is the federal fiscal year.
Oh, okay,
September
okay.
30th.
Like, whoa, wait,
Yeah.
what? Okay,
Yes, we have
thank
the
you.
federal fiscal
That's
year that
helpful.
ends 30th,
Great.
the Municipal fiscal year that ends on December 31st, and the state fiscal year that ends on June 30th.
Clear as mud.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you.
I guess if I can also, I think it does feel pretty confusing to get these like numbers that are at least like a quarter out of date. So if there's a way, if you're not legally required to use this format for your spreadsheet, I guess if there's another way to present more current data when you give the next report, whether that's like in the remarks column or an additional column, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think one of the things I want to work with James on is while the TIP Amendment 3 wasn't in place during that quarter, I want to see what it would look like if TIP Amendment 3 were in place, because I want to give you guys a more realistic picture of where our obligations are at. Because this is dated, and I'll be honest, part of that is my fault because I was out of town and we could have had this in May. So I apologize for the delay in that regard. And so that's why we're rushing to make sure the quarter 3 is in place. But it is always kind of the problem with getting these at the end of a quarter. It's passed. And so, yeah, it's an area for improvement.
Would it be possible to get this same, or to get a preview perhaps of the next report with, if it needs to be an additional column? You know, maybe it's not formally obligated, but, or however, maybe an intermediate report that actually does show the most updated, that shows the TIP amendment number 3 obligations.
Yeah, I can put that on my notes and see what we can come up with, work with James and provide you guys something, even if it's, yes, we'll see what we can do.
Okay, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments from the public? Not seeing any. I think we can move on to the next agenda item, which is 6D, the project status update report.
So this goes hand in hand with the quarterly obligation report, just kind of giving you an update that James puts together, working with everybody. This is AMAT's planning projects, the projects that DOT's working on for AMAT's, that the Muni's working on for AMAT. So it's kind of a whole list for you all to see kind of where these projects are at. Again, this is as of March 31st, 2025. So things have changed since then. So this can be another area where maybe we can do an interim update on these, just so you guys have a more accurate of where the projects are at. I'll have to talk with James about that, but sometimes projects don't change much between quarters. So that is kind of one of our challenges. You know, we may not have new information for you, but this is here for you to look at kind of what projects we have, who are the project managers, and what the status is of them. Again, I will note the projects that say the project is on hold pending the TIP amendment, they are not on hold anymore. The TIP amendment is approved. They're moving forward as fast as humanly possible. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're looking at it and are concerned with some of these projects. So I'm happy to help answer any questions. James is here as well to help answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Any questions for Aaron from the committee?
I guess I might make one additional formatting suggestion is maybe it would make it too complex, but some way of having like some kind of like track changes also in terms of like, I know we weighed in on third and fourth recently as a policy committee and changed those projects a little bit. So a sense of like when this was approved by the policy committee, when it was last changed, the date that it was put on hold by DOT, the date it was taken off of hold, but like I think some like a sense of, and maybe that's like a spreadsheet instead of a document, or it's a entirely different document you've already created that I should just go to the website for, but some sense of where we're like, I think my sense is this, there is a sense of delay in inaction. And so having some way of tracking how projects are moving forward and fits and starts and when they're getting paused and when they're getting unpaused and whether it's the STIP's fault or the TIP's fault or Aaron going out of town fault, where we can lay blame, or me going out of town, like where we can blame. So anyway, I don't know what that would exactly look like. It's sort of a vague request, but.
Okay, I'll work with James and see if we can come up with something. I'm not sure what that'll look like, but happy to take an attempt and see what you guys think, and may not have it for the next meeting just because we have to post the agenda next week for the TAC, but it's something for us to work on.
Great.
I actually have a similar comment, and maybe this is me being extremely high maintenance. But I think this would actually be really helpful to see in a table form versus narrative.
Okay.
Most of the other documents that we look at in AMATs, I think it's actually really helpful that they're in a table form because it's easy to sort of read across and be able to compare project to project.
Okay.
So, even with the sort of the discrete categories that you already have outlined here, that would be really, really lovely if it was tabular versus narrative, with a note section or whatever, and then perhaps the columns that Mr. Downey suggested. I think that would be a little easier for me to read and digest, and then be able to compare sort of apples to apples. If I'm looking at a quarterly report from quarter 2 to quarter 3, it would be easy to sort of scan and see the differences.
Track change version will be a lot of track changes.
It'll be mostly red, so.
But I think that does have, I think in our internal status report, we have columns that have the original estimated dates and compared to the current estimated dates. I think that has value. But let you guys work on a format there, but I think we have that information, so. Any other comments, questions for Aaron? None from the committee. Any comments from the public? Mr. Starzich.
James Starzy, DOT Planning. Really happy that you guys are interested and are giving feedback. This document really is geared towards the 5 of you as much as it is to the public. So any changes that would make it a better document for y'all, happy to take into consideration. As Mr. Holland pointed out, track changes will be a very messy document, let me assure you. But there could be an opportunity for me to put together some sort of table that shows, like each quarter's report for a project, one after the other, so that you could compare the status of a particular project over time. I'm sure I could figure something like that out. And hopefully, Aaron, you're taking copious notes on the committee's comments here. But if you ever have any suggestions or comments you'd like to provide me, I'm more than happy to take them. I'm sure you all have my email at this point. And again, since we wrapped up the third quarter on June 30th, I am efforting to have this document ready to be on the TAC agenda next week.
Thank you, James. Any other public comment?
We do. Nancy Pease.
Please.
Yes, I do take note that the project status update report may be targeted for the policy committee, but as a member of the public, it's actually very helpful for me and some of the people that I work with to be able to see elements of the project and what's moving forward, whether it's, the environmental or the right-of-way report is finished or the final speed study is done. That's really helpful in sort of tracking progress on projects of interest to the public. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry if I had one more comment.
Mr. Starczyk.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, this report differs a little bit from previous reports in that this also includes DOT projects that weren't funded through the AMATS allocation. Previously, I had just given updates on projects that were being forwarded through the AMATS allocation. This includes all of the projects within the AMATS area. So HSIP, the HSIP project, and all of the AMATS projects. I don't include transit and railroad because I really have no connection with any of that. Perhaps they can provide those if that was something of interest to you.
So actually, to that point, I think it would be in this alleged table that we're discussing, I think it would be really helpful to sort of see those designations as well. Like what's an HSIP project or, what's the combination, if any, and how these projects are designated. That would also be a nice little feature.
Great. Dr. Holden. No, I did out of a corner of my eye. I thought you were raising your hand.
Nothing from me.
Yeah. Any other comments from the public? Not seeing any. Let's move on to the final informational item, which is the next policy committee meeting over.
Yeah, so just looking at our upcoming, so we have the 2025 public participation plan comments. So as you remember, we put the public participation plan out. We received a number of comments. Christine has been working on compiling all those comments and bringing it back for final approval for you all. So pretty excited to move forward with that. The high crash network map will be coming back for your guys' consideration and action. And then we have a couple of informational items. The Safe Roads Initiative from US DOT was asked to put that on there. I sent an email out to you about the brand new safe roads, about the arterial streets, and the list that has to be developed in coordination between DOT and the MPOs. So putting that on there for information discussion. And then there'll be the Northern Lights Boulevard pavement project update if the project manager can make it. So that's all we have on there. Thank you.
You have a question?
Well, yeah, so it would be nice to potentially talk about 5th and 6th. I don't know if that needs to happen at the next meeting, but
would you like that as an action item or informational item?
I suspect it would be an action item to support transferring ownership of 5th and 6th and INL to the Muni and delisting it from the National Highway System.
Okay. A letter of support for 5th, 6th. I'll have to follow up with you about that afterwards to get that ready for the TAC agenda posting next week. So,
Aaron, I'm sorry, would you repeat what you said following the Safe Roads Initiative? So I have public participation plan comments, high crash network, Safe Roads Initiative, and then I think there was one other thing that you mentioned. That was on our...
the Northern Lights Boulevard pavement preservation project.
Okay.
I have that on there as tentative, waiting until we get a response from the DOT project manager if they can attend next meeting or not.
Great, thank you.
At the bottom of our agenda, it shows September and dates for the technical advisory committee, but I think you said they were meeting in August.
Yes, the next meetings are in August, not September. I'm skipping a month.
Please don't.
No, that will be in September. I apologize, or in August. Apologize for the confusion there, everybody.
I really need August.
Any other?
Well, the other big thing is, and I think, Chair Holland, I think has brought this up before, so I think you could potentially speak to this more than I could, but we've talked about some way of making sure the chair has, a chance to weigh in on the agenda in advance of it being set for the TAC. I don't know if we'd landed on a process for doing that. Is this that process, or
No, you guys tabled that indefinitely.
we did table that definitely?
Yep.
We can take that
Okay,
conversation up.
we can take it off myself.
Yeah, are there any other comments on the, policy committee meeting overview and for the next one? None from the committee, any from the public? None from the public. On to committee comments. Any general comments from the committee? Seeing shaking heads.
Just really, as always, appreciate the AMAT staff for the tremendous amount of work they do. And also to James for producing reports for us this year, this month.
Yes, and I think I just sent Emily away without thanking her for her presentation. Thank you for the presentation. Are there any public comments? I'm not seeing any. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Or a second?
Second.
Second and thirded. We're about 2:28 and call that our adjournment. Thank you.